and welcome to another episode of Timeless Personal Growth and Development. Today we're talking about egos. Well, it's important to have an ego. But what happens when your ego gets too out of control? We all have egos to some form, to some extent. We all have an ego. We need to. We wouldn't be able to survive in this world if we didn't have an ego. But I'll start with what happens when our ego gets too out of control, and the problems that can occur when you have too much of an ego and you think too highly of yourself, and you think you're all that, which you're really not. It affects your ability to interact properly with other people and to resolve conflict. And it prevents you from taking responsibility and being accountable for your actions. We don't like constructive criticism. We're human beings. We don't like it. It doesn't feel good, right? We don't like being called out on crap when we're made a mistake or we're in the wrong. We don't want to be called out on any of that. Because we want to protect our ego, because it doesn't feel good when our ego gets smashed. But sometimes it's necessary to get smashed. But if you're the kind of person who can take constructive criticism, allow your ego get smashed a little bit, take responsibility, take accountability, and then rebuild yourself from that, that's growth. That's maturity. And this is what this channel is all about, is teaching you growth and development in every aspect of life. This is based on an ego sense, is that if you're able to detach your ego from a situation, and be able to take responsibility and be accountable, and you know what, just allow yourself to take the goddamn hit. It doesn't feel good. No, it doesn't feel good. But you need to take that hit sometimes. That ego, whether it's a situation or a conflict at work, or if it's conflict in a relationship with someone, and you know that you're clearly in the wrong, but you're not admitting it. But deep down in the back of your head, you know you're in the wrong. But you know by openly admitting it to someone, you're destroying your own ego. It doesn't feel good. Sometimes it's necessary to humble yourself a little bit, knock yourself down a little bit, because you know what? That actually builds trust with other people. If you're having a conflict with someone and you're unable to take accountability and responsibility of a situation that you are clearly in the wrong about, and that person you're in conflict with knows that you are in the wrong and you're still not taking accountability, and if you finally do, you know what that builds? That builds trust with that person. That person can trust you. They feel more connected, and they feel like that problem that you had is resolved. Why? Because you're an adult, you were mature, and you knocked your ego down a little bit for the sake of the relationship, the friendship, to fix the conflict that you have. So you continue and move forward and build on an ego, but build a healthier ego. Now I'm going to transition into why you need to have an ego, and why having too little of an ego is problematic too. You need to have an ego. Without having an ego, and you allow yourself to be a doormat, you allow yourself to be pushed around, you allow yourself to take too much responsibility over situations that are not necessarily your responsibility. So you become someone who is always trying to please, who's always trying to look for approval, who's always trying to apologize for everything. You don't need to do that all the time. You need to take responsibility, take full responsibility of everything that goes on in your life. But depending on what the situation is, you need to know when to not apologize. And I ran into a situation this week where I was kind of being held accountable for something that I didn't do, or which I thought I did. And I got a phone call, and the person on the phone was basically, it was a work situation, holding me accountable for this situation. I was, I was understanding, and I was listening to what they were saying, and was kind of busting my chops a little bit, busting up my ego down a little bit. And then after a while, I realized, you know what? I did my part. I did my response. Whatever the situation was, I did my part. It was other people, other parties in that situation that didn't do their part, that didn't handle their responsibility, and it all kind of backfired onto me. So you know what? I took responsibility for the part that I did, but taking responsibility for the job that other people didn't do? No. I'm not apologizing for that. I'm not taking responsibility for that, because that was not my role. I played my part, and I was not going to, after a while kind of digesting it and thinking about it, I decided I'm not going to let my ego get destroyed for this. And I'm going to stand my ground, and I'm going to push back. And I did, and they didn't like that, and I don't care. Because I did my, it's one thing if I didn't do my part, if I didn't handle my responsibilities of the situation, which I did. I handled it. It's other people that in the situation that didn't do their part, which affected me. I was kind of being blamed about the whole thing, and I stood my ground with this person. I said no, and they didn't like it, and you know what? That's just too damn bad. And that was a situation where, well, that was a situation that kind of, gave me the idea for this video talking about ego. But it was a situation where I kind of needed to not check my ego, but I needed to stay firm. I couldn't back down in that situation. That was not a situation where I needed to back down and humble yourself. That was a situation where, you know what? I'm not going to apologize for this situation. I did my role, I did my part. And sometimes, depending on the context, whatever situation you're in, you got to do that sometimes. You got to develop the ability to judge and evaluate the situation and know when to not apologize. And sometimes that's going to bust other people's egos by not apologizing when you want them to. But if you're clearly not in the wrong about a certain situation, it's other people's fault, and they're not taking responsibility for what they did, and they're blaming it on you, no, don't back down, and do not apologize for that. Because it forces them to take responsibility for the job that they didn't do, or the role that they played in that conflict that you're in. You hear about situations like that in breakups all the time, right? Like, oh, like what happened in your last relationship? Oh, this person did this person did that, this person, cheated on me, blah, blah, blah. So you had no role at all in the destruction of the relationship? It was all the other person's fault? Men and women like to do that all the time. Talking about their past relationships, and like, you ask them, oh, what went wrong? Oh, it's all the other person's fault. Oh, it's that guy's fault. It's that girl's fault. Oh, you cheated on me. It's all that. It's like not taking any kind of responsibility for your role in the destruction of the relationship. There's two people there. Remember that. There's two people. Not being able to take responsibility for what went wrong is going to just create future behavior problems and patterns that's just not going to continue because you don't know how to be an adult and take responsibility. But you got to know when to put blame and shift responsibility when the situation is clearly not your fault, and just say, nope, I'm not sorry. No matter how much you want me to be sorry, I'm not. You don't like it? Deal with it. And on that note, thank you so much for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. If you got value out of this video, you can like and subscribe. Timeless personal growth. and development, and I'll see you all in the next one. Have a good one.